Hello everyone, welcome to my Dead Space remake, hard difficulty, no damage walkthrough. This is Chapter 4, Obliteration Imminent, and this is one of my favorite chapters in the game. I mean, it's not as good as Chapter 2, but I think the flow of the gameplay feels good, aside from the beginning, where you have to sit through that interactive cutscene where you're just listening to Isaac and Hammond talk about irrelevant stuff aside from stuff related to the marker. Like, why did they make that gameplay? I don't get it. And like, they introduced Chen, that necromorph who was a part of our crew before, and then Hammond ejects him into space via the escape pod, and then that allows the Valor to then be infected somehow. How the hell does a single necromorph take on an entire vessel full of crew members, and how does the necromorph even infect anyone? It's not an infector, it's just a generic necromorph. So, once again, the role of the infector is placed into contention when it just seems like the marker is already capable of actually infecting corpses and turning them into necromorphs. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, it's all just nonsense. It's all just completely irrelevant stuff that has nothing to do with the gameplay. I just hate it. And that's why I made a save file after that stupid cutscene moment, because I didn't want to put up with it. And then from here, this is where the gameplay gets interesting. So, we're having to divert power to the ADS cannons, and in my blind playthrough, I was actually nervous about the implementation of the ADS cannons because I fucking hated the implementation of the ADS cannons in Dead Space 1. It was so arcadey, it felt so out of character of the game. Like, it just felt like such a dissonance. It was so jarring, just the gameplay setup that they went for with the ADS cannons. Not to mention the laser-sighted system that Dead Space 1 favored made it so incredibly annoying trying to hit the asteroids, because you couldn't even see where you were aiming most of the time. Not to mention the sensitivity was garbage on console, and that's why people mostly enjoy that section on PC. But here, they've fixed that section drastically, because they've actually incorporated the ADS cannon aiming system into the natural aiming system that Isaac uses. So you're not getting interrupted whatsoever. You're actually aiming at the asteroids, and you're pressing X, and you're firing at the asteroids to give them targeting data to allow them to calibrate properly, and I think it's a well-done sequence, and also it doesn't outstay its welcome. The ADS cannon section from Dead Space 1 outstayed its welcome. It lasted far longer than it perhaps should, and they used it twice, and the second time was against the Leviathan Remnant. But the first time you're doing the ADS cannon section for Dead Space Remake, it only lasts about, like, 1 to 2 minutes. That is the perfect length for that. And then you have the threats of the lurkers. Like, it works perfectly. The only problem is, the hitboxes on the asteroids, the first time you're trying to go for a cannon, they're pretty bad. But as you get more cannons on your side, and you're basically restoring them to, like, core functionality, you're allowing the cannons to destroy most of the asteroids so that you can then create a safe way for you to actually get to the other cannons. And, you know, it works pretty well in that regard, but the hitboxes should have been fine-tuned. The hitboxes on the asteroids are terrible, because I get hit by invisible asteroids somehow. Like, it makes no sense. If they fix the hitboxes on the asteroids, I think that section would be perfect. Like, far better than what it would have already been in Dead Space 1 and how it is right now in this remake. But ignoring that, let's talk about the gameplay here. So, like I said before, we're trying to restore power to the ADS cannons, and you have to go to 3 different rooms that are on 3 different floors, and each of the rooms are pretty well designed. The first room, there were a couple of enhanced necromorphs in the way, but I used the flamethrower's firewall effect in order to stun them, and then while they were stunned, I was aiming for their blades to dismember them and use them to my advantage. And then after that, there are a bunch of lurkers, and so I was able to dispatch them with the pulse rifle mines when their tentacles were exposed. And then after that, we make a mad dash out of the room once we restore power. And then this room, this is pretty simple. I do like the way they use the enemies for these sequences. They don't throw so many of them, and I feel like the enemy diversity, it feels right. But you just have a couple of lurkers, you have a couple of necromorphs, one that spawns behind you as well, which I dealt with, and then I dealt with the two lurkers using the blades, and then I also used the pulse rifle mines. And then you have the brute, and the brute is pretty easy to get past. You just stasis him, stasis the wires, restore power, stasis him again, replenish your stasis, and get out of there. I don't even know if the brute is able to follow you throughout the entire room. But then we have this. We have the two leapers here, which are easy to dispatch with the flamethrower. The second one, I'm not able to use the flamethrower against, but I'm able to use stasis and actually use the plasma cutter on it. Or if I don't have stasis, I can just easily get away from its close range attack, because leapers don't leap at you as much in this game, which is really good design. And then right here, this is where the game will most likely give you flamethrower fuel. In the previous areas, it gives you a lot of pulse rifle ammunition for some reason. So you'll definitely want to use up some mines just so you have more space for other ammunition. But here, you use the flamethrower's firewall effect in order to kill that pregnant, and you'll also damage the enhanced necromorph if he happens to spawn right there. Oh, and I hate that as well. Did you see what I threw at him? Rather than actually prioritizing the blade, I prioritized the arm that the blade was attached to. I fucking hate that. Like, why would you make that a part of the arm that you can grab? Just make the blade the only thing you can grab. I don't want to grab the body. I don't want to grab the arm. Give me the fucking blade. It's this kind of crap that is always the case with Kinesis in every single Dead Space game. And you didn't deal with it whatsoever in the Callisto Protocol because there wasn't any real limb dismemberment system in the Callisto Protocol. But, you know, I've seen the way they've zoned the different parts of the body. So, like, the way they've actually made dismemberment work is they've zoned out different parts of the body, and you can grab each of those individual zones, but there are certain zones of the arms and the legs that I wish you didn't have to grab with Kinesis, because it gets in the way of grabbing the blades, and I hate that so much. But this is the ADS cannon section. So when you first get into this room, be careful of the asteroids because, like I said, the hit detection on them is atrocious because they have phantom range. I have a couple of bloopers of this happening, but once this first cannon has been restored, it's going to support you while you're making your way to the other cannons. You'll want to hug the edge of the arena and try to get as high as possible so that if the asteroids touch the Ishimura, you won't get hit by the phantom range so much. But essentially how this works is you aim at the meteorites, and when you press X, you've got to make sure that your laser is continually on the asteroid so that the projectiles that the turrets fire actually make contact. That's what you got to realize. The turrets on this section are projectile-based, not hit-scan-based. I wish they were hit-scan-based because there are a couple of times where it looks like they should make contact, but they don't. But it's a minor thing. It's not that big of a deal. But after you restore the second cannon, you won't have to deal with the asteroid so much, and then this is where you got to deal with the two lurkers. So get on the ground level, and then look for the lurkers. And you see how long I had to wait for that lurker to expose his tentacles? Lurkers just dilly-dally all the time, and you can't do a lot of damage to them when their tentacles aren't exposed, so you have to wait, like a moron, until they actually expose their tentacles, and then that's when you can eliminate them. Like, does that look like an engaging process to go through? It's so fucking tedious. It's been the case in every single Dead Space game. But regardless, you can easily dispatch the lurkers with your pulse rifle mines, and you won't deal with the asteroids because the turrets are so reliable in this part. And we've done it. We've done the sequence. Look how great the sequence is. Look how well paced it is. If everything else was fixed, like the hitboxes, this would be perfect. Oh, aside from those moments where Isaac doesn't ascend properly, because I feel like the sky barrier that prevents Isaac from going any higher is a little too low. I wish it was higher, because the amount of times I'm trying to go up and he doesn't go up, and I'm trying to go high to avoid the hitboxes on the asteroids, that's pretty aggravating. Not aggravating, that's too strong of a word. That's just pretty annoying. But overall, this sequence is way better than how it was in Dead Space 1. I gotta give Motive Studios credit. They did something so much better than the original developers did. Yeah, I gotta give praise to them. That is a phenomenal sequence. And then right here, we have a couple of divider parts, so use the flamethrower on them because they have more life than they perhaps should. And that's why the plasma cutter isn't that effective. And then right here, this is a trap. Do not go into the store because a necromorph will spawn. I remember that that was the case, and so I backed out of the store very quickly, and I started shooting this guy. But that's the main problem I have with this part right here. I get what they were trying to go for, but if Isaac could get out of the store faster, then I would actually tolerate this a lot more, because in my blind playthrough, it took Isaac so long to get out of the store that the necromorph had plenty of time to hit me. It was pretty bullshit. It's like those moments in Dead Space 3, because I know Dead Space 3 had similar problems like this, but it happened more frequently in that game because of how badly balanced that game is. But after that, we have this room over here that we can now gain access to thanks to the upgraded security clearance. And we can get some supplies. Then we got to get on the tram and go back to medical, and then this is where the save file will be, and that's the end of this chapter. But here are a couple of bloopers. So right here is where the Phantom Rain screwed me. Look at that. That's nowhere near me, and it somehow got me. And then right here, this is the bullshit jump attack that the Necromorphs can do. And with how finicky the stun systems are because of the arbitrary damage value system, you cannot stop that move effectively. It's so stupid. And then that was some more Phantom Range. You can see that did not touch me. There's no debris heading my way. I just get hit by nothing. It's so stupid. And look how far away that asteroid was. Why did I take damage? That's the kind of crap that I wish was fixed when you're first starting the sequence. After you restart the first cannon, you don't deal with this issue so much, but if they would just fix the initial start to this room with those asteroids, I would enjoy the sequence a lot more. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy the sequence, because I do love this sequence, but those hitboxes, they really bring the section down in quality. But this is the end of Chapter 4. Stay tuned for the future chapters. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.